In the fall of 1938, under a year prior to the start of World War II, British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain met on 3 separate occasions with Adolf Hitler to discuss the future of the Sudetenland, a German-majority province of Czechoslovakia. Hitler wanted the Sudetenland incorporated into Germany and claimed to be willing to go to war if necessary. The result of these meetings would be the Munich Agreement, which gave Germany the territory in exchange for a promise of no further aggression against Czechoslovakia. Hitler did not keep his word, and within a few months, all of Czechoslovakia would be absorbed into the Nazi state. Though the Munich Agreement appeared to be a short-term diplomatic success, it became one of the British government's greatest and most consequential strategic failures before the start of World War II. The Munich Agreement, how the quest for peace further doomed the nation to war. World War I left Germany humiliated. The once powerful nation was forced to agree to the Treaty of Versailles, which levied several terms even allies considered too harsh. Germany ceded vast swaths of territory to Belgium, France, Czechoslovakia, and Poland, weakened its armed forces, fully demilitarized the Rhineland, and paid billions of dollars in reparations. This deal angered Germany, allowing an extremist like Hitler to rise in popularity on the promise of restoring the nation's glory. On January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler was named the Chancellor of the Weimar Republic. Consolidating power on a platform of anger and hatred, Hitler vowed to restore Germany to its former position as a world power. Hitler's political agenda focused on territorial expansion. He wanted to unite all of the Germanic territories of Europe into one state, including Austria, regions of Poland, and the Sudetenland. His first major action took place in March of 1936, when German troops entered the Rhineland to limited resistance from the west. Hitler then spent much of the following 2 years creating instability in Austria, and in March of 1938, German troops entered the nation, assimilating Austria into the German Empire. At this point, Hitler set his sights on the Sudetenland. After World War I, the Sudeten population had been forcibly absorbed into the Czech state, despite the area's largely Germanic population. The Sudetenland featured a highly industrialized economy, causing it to be hit particularly hard by the Great Depression. The Sudeten German Party, a Nazi outpost in the region, capitalized on this, spreading anti-Czech propaganda throughout the mid-1930s. The people were highly receptive to the Nazi ideals, and in the parliamentary elections of 1935, the Nazis received almost 2/3 of the Sudeten German vote.
In May of 1939, Neville Chamberlain became the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom on a platform of improving relations with Germany. As a result, he would go to any lengths necessary to avoid a catastrophe similar to the Great War.
You just cannot understand British politics, British diplomatic politics, without understanding just how strongly anti-war Britain as a nation was. Britain had lost a large slice of its adult manhood in the First World War to no very obvious benefit.
Chamberlain also had a very low view of the Czech people. His personal advisor, Sir Horace Wilson, even stated, quote, "From the start, we were up against the fundamental difficulty that Czechoslovakia had no business to exist as it was." The Czechoslovak government was aware of the difficult situation it was in, and in September of 1938 it agreed to give the Sudetenland autonomy, as long as it officially remained a part of the greater nation. Even so, it stopped short of Hitler's demand to cede the territory to Germany. This led Chamberlain to attend a private meeting with Hitler on September 15th in Berchtesgaden, the Nazi leader's private retreat. Chamberlain went into the meeting intending to call for a plebiscite in the Sudetenland, allowing the Sudetenland to join Germany if it wanted to. Hitler counteracted by demanding that all areas of Czechoslovakia with over a 50% German population be turned over to Germany. Chamberlain gave in to Hitler's demands and got approval from both the French and British governments. France was treaty-bound to defend Czechoslovakia, but they prioritized avoiding war as well. Chamberlain made it clear that if the Czechs denied the German demands, they would be forced to deal with Germany on their own. Chamberlain and Hitler met again on September 22nd at Bad Godesberg. Hitler, now more confident, claimed that the terms didn't go far enough. He demanded that parts of Czechoslovakia also be given to Hungary and Poland, as well as that German troops be allowed to occupy the Sudetenland by October 1st. At this point, many in both Britain and France had enough and began preparing to go to war. Chamberlain's own cabinet revolted, rejecting Hitler's demands. What had previously been unity through fear of war became a moment of political strife, with debate amongst the British government over the issue reaching a never-before-seen height. For a brief moment, the path to war appeared inevitable.
However, despite intense political backlash, Chamberlain was still committed to averting war. He worried the people and the military were neither ready nor willing to go to war. When the British Foreign Office declared it would defend Czechoslovakia, Chamberlain personally reached out to Hitler, advising him to ignore statements made from any government officials but himself. Hitler, seeing that Britain would not go to war, promised Chamberlain that he would formally guarantee the remainder of Czechoslovakia, if he was given the Sudetenland. Chamberlain agreed. Leaders from Britain, France, Germany, and Italy all gathered in Munich to sign the Munich Agreement, surrendering the Sudetenland to Germany. In what is often seen as a major black stain on British history, Czech officials were given no say in the matter, and only 2 were even allowed to be at the conference as observers. This disregard for Czech sovereignty would carry great significance after the war. After the conference, Chamberlain was able to arrange a private meeting with Hitler. He proposed that Hitler sign a declaration that the 2 nations remain at peace. Hitler signed it, and an ecstatic Chamberlain returned to London announcing, "I believe it is peace for our time." The nation largely celebrated Chamberlain's achievement. However, critics of Chamberlain were unsatisfied with the Munich Agreement, believing that the British had made too many concessions and that they had done nothing to avert a coming war. Winston Churchill declared, "You were given the choice between war and dishonor. You chose dishonor, and you will have war." On March 15, 1939, less than 6 months after taking the Sudetenland, German troops marched into Czechoslovakia, breaking Hitler's previous promise to maintain Czech autonomy and proving to the world that he was unable to be reasoned with. Within a month, Britain officially guaranteed it would defend Poland in the case of a German invasion.
Think after Munich, especially after Prague, when the Germans reneged on the Munich Agreement, the general sense within government was that appeasement was dead.
Churchill's warning would come to pass on September 1st, 1939, as 1.5 million German troops crossed the Polish border, marking the start of World War II. Hitler had expected Britain and France to respond with inaction. However, the British and French governments had had enough of appeasing Hitler and stood by the guarantees of Polish security. Each nation formally declared war on Germany on September 3rd. Peace had run its course, and Europe was now on a path to almost 6 years of war.
In part, the Munich Agreement was a result of the breakdown of debate within the British government. While British internal debate concluded that war was an appropriate response to Hitler's actions, Chamberlain ignored the decision. This disconnect between debate and decision-making weakened Britain's ability to engage in effective diplomacy with Germany. When Hitler predictably committed further acts of aggression, the British were forced to go to war, rendering the concessions Chamberlain made obsolete. World War II was a long and arduous struggle, and German strength in the war can be attributed in part to British inaction throughout the 1930s, with the Sudetenland crisis being only the most notable of several defining moments. Chamberlain's greatest political legacy is his inability to take decisive action against Germany when he had the chance. The consequences of his failure with appeasement are often cited by world leaders as reasons to encourage assertive action as opposed to strategic diplomacy. Before greatly increasing the American presence in Vietnam, President Johnson argued, "You can have more war or you can have more appeasement." This effect has been a double-edged sword in the political arena. The general stigma around appeasement continues to discourage its use as a diplomatic strategy. Rare exceptions, such as President Kennedy's under-the-table deal with Khrushchev during the Cuban Missile Crisis, were typically downplayed or hidden entirely, perpetuating the narrative that iron will diplomacy is always the optimal choice. Iron will diplomacy has held relevance in the modern day, where world leaders have sought to gain support by projecting power abroad, even at the cost of going to war. This notion has allowed conflicts to escalate and tensions to rise, putting nations at an increased risk of unnecessary war. However, the unwillingness to appease has also legitimized and strengthened transnational alliances, some of the greatest modern deterrents to large-scale conflict. Chamberlain's appeasement strategy was born from legitimate concerns.
This image that Chamberlain had flying back to Britain from Petersburg, looking down the Houses of London and saying, "How can I defend these people? How can I defend these houses from attack from the air?" And he did not see the way.
With that in mind, the Munich Agreement was initially a diplomatic success, as it did briefly achieve its mission of averting war. Britain's decision to appease Hitler was extremely consequential, and whether it be in international diplomacy or in academic discourse, the effects of the Munich Agreement can be felt to this day. The words of Czech Foreign Minister Jan Masaryk are a haunting echo of a memory that still lingers in the public mind. "If you have sacrificed my nation to preserve the peace of the world, I will be the first to applaud you. But, if not, gentlemen, God help your souls."